We saw Lawrence Okolie, and Lawrence Okolie had a knockout win, another exciting and exhilarating knockouts in the same way that Davies was. What do you make of Lawrence's performance? I mean, he was big, wasn't he? I mean, were you surprised to see him that big, 260 pounds?
You know what? I saw him a few weeks beforehand. He was big, so I knew he was going to be big. I didn't know what his weight was, but yeah, I kind of knew he was going to be the way he was.
18.6, I think he weighed. 18.5, 18.6.
See, I don't know what that is in pounds.
260 pounds.
Okay, then yeah.
Yeah, so look, I thought
bigger than what Joshua weighs.
It's interesting. I spoke to Joe Gallagher about his weight actually, and Lawrence after the fight, and he was saying, look, they obviously that is where he's suited. He's nice and light on his feet, and I think that he carried the weight well.
Spence, you've mentioned Joe Gallagher and Lawrence. Let's hear what you had to say to them on Saturday night. Or they had to say to you.
And who you are and what you've done previously. We've just been throwing around names. The likes of the Dillian Whites of this world. Absolutely.
Yeah, Joe don't like that one.
Joe's shaking his head. Which one do you want? Who do you want him to fight? Because we're talking about profile fights.
Number 5 WBC now. That'll get him to number 4, number 3. Shang's fighting at Kabiel. If Usyk wins, I think he'll vacate the belt. So Lawrence most will be the winner of that fight there that I just mentioned. And that position, we're not looking behind for people behind us. We're looking ahead of us. He's been 2-8 world champion. We're looking forward. Dylan White's had a great career. Derek Chisora's had a great career. And good luck to him. But now we're looking ahead of us, not behind us. And that's no disrespect. But that type of talk is just nonsense. We're gunning. We'll be number 3 in the WBC, and we're gunning for a world title shot in 2025.
Listen, I like Lawrence, and I really like Joe Gallagher. But I don't know what you think. I don't think Lawrence Okolie's ready for a world title shot yet in the heavyweight division. Do you?
Well, listen, he's made no secret about it, and I think Joe's the same. He's saying, look, he's done the cruiserweights, he's done the bridgerweights, he's grown into the heavyweights. He wanted to test himself at heavyweight. He's done that, and he come through with flying colours. He showed a lot of confidence.
There's levels, isn't there? I mean, who's he fought?
Of course, of course that, and I recognise that, and I think Joe and Lawrence know as well. Look, 2025, he said that they're number 3 in the WBC rankings now. Or no, he was number 5. I think he will be elevated to number 3 after that. And he's saying, look, if the opportunity comes up, I want it. He needs another 2 fights.
And of course he's going to take the opportunity. Who's not going to take the opportunity?
He needs 2 more
what
fights.
we're talking about is whether he's ready for it or not, and whether he's entitled to it.
2 more fights.
That's what I think.
Yeah, and those 2 fights will put him entitled to it because it will be names of substance. Yeah. You can't just go, I'm going to fight two fighters of that calibre that I've just boxed and get the world title shot. Yeah. That won't happen because the way the heavyweights are right now.
Big margin difference, but
yeah. You fancy a bit of that?
What's that?
You and Lawrence?
That'd be a good fight. Like I said, I said it before in an interview. Me and Lawrence have sparred. I sparred Lawrence when he was a heavyweight. So, but me and him sparred with bad intentions. So
explain to the people what the difference is, because Lawrence has always had this sort of negative comments around him about the way that he fights and being sort of bit reserved in the way that he fights. But as a heavyweight, all the sparring I hear that's being done in the gym with Lawrence as a heavyweight, he's a different fighter.
Yeah, he's a good fighter. I feel like obviously he's a big guy, and he's naturally got a big frame. So for him to make cruise, it was probably just sucking the life out of him, where he probably wasn't feeling as energetic or as strong as he usually would. But yeah, when he was a heavyweight, obviously he was strong, he was being energetic. So yeah, I got the best Lawrence Okolie. It was good work.
Right.
We sparred over in America. I was getting ready for a fight, he was getting ready for a fight. So yeah, man, we was going for it. Do
you think it's going to set him free a little bit, this heavyweight division? Because obviously Lawrence has come into some criticism. He knows he has. He came into with a lot of expectation. Obviously, he went under Anthony Joshua's stable at one point. He gets his nickname, The Sauce. He gets television shows built around him. He wins a world cruiserweight title. But there were some performances in there that people really didn't like.
I'll tell you why it was, Simon.
But Joe Gallagher also makes a difference to him, I think. Do you think that the heavyweights are going to make a difference to Lawrence, that we're going to see what people think Lawrence is capable of, rather than what Lawrence didn't do in the past that people were critical of?
Yeah, we will. And the reason we will is because, like David said there, when you've got someone of Lawrence's frame, making cruiserweight was a big problem for him. I spoke to him about this, and he said, when you make a certain weight, and I know this is an ex-fighter making weight as well, the punch resistance goes. And if your punch resistance goes, then you lose the confidence in your own ability. And so he had all that going on. And as time was going on as a cruiserweight, that was happening to him, but he was still the champion. So it was about making the weight. And I think that he sort of started losing confidence in his own ability. At heavyweight, I think we'll see, and with Joe Gallagher as well, I think you'll see a reinvented Lawrence Okolie, and someone that believes in himself a lot more because of the weight.
Yeah.
I think weight was the big problem for him.
Yeah, weight was a big problem for him, and obviously
And that showed in his performances, obviously.
Yeah, he mentioned obviously on Fight Week he can eat what he wants as well, but it'll be good to see how we.
I think he was too heavy though. I think he thinks. I spoke to him earlier on. I think he probably thinks he should be around about 240, 245, 260 is him just getting his range in it, building himself up, and then go right. Well, I need to be.
Do you think he can win a world title? Do you think he can put himself in the mix with those guys?
I think he can put himself in the mix with them.
Oh, do you think he could beat them? I'll rephrase.
I don't see him beating Daniel Dubois. Depends what the heavyweight division landscape looks like. Well, we don't know what's left of Anthony Joshua. Right?
Well, I'm asking you, do you think he could beat him? Like, that's what I'm saying right now.
Well, we don't know what's left of Anthony Joshua. Do I think Anthony Joshua, if I closed my eyes and thought of Anthony Joshua before he got cleaned out by Daniel Dubois, would you ever have the conversation that Anthony Joshua was going to get beaten by Lawrence Okolie?
No, definitely not. That's why I'm asking you.
But the reasons why I would have the conversation now, maybe, is because we've seen Joshua being cleaned out. And so we don't know what's left of Anthony. Definitely. One assumes that there's something left of him quite significant, but if there isn't, then it's a kind of hypothetical question because you don't know what's left of Anthony. So I don't know in that situation. I'd rather not just make some foolhardy observation.
But do you think that? No, I don't. Let's forget Joshua. Do you think in a couple of fights? Let's get real. In a couple of fights, do you think that Lawrence could put himself in a position where he could compete with, let's say, your Martin Bakoli's or your Joseph Parker's?
I think it's difficult for him. I think ultimately, I think he would struggle against Caballero. I think he would struggle against Okolie. I think he would struggle against any of the top 5 or 6 heavyweights in the world. Yeah,
a strong. Obviously, it'll be. I think for Lawrence, he's a very good fighter, and the advantage he had at cruiserweight, you wouldn't have at heavyweight.
Yeah.
So. Yeah,
be interesting to see the next 12 months or so with Lawrence and how he develops as a heavyweight. That's probably a fair assessment, isn't it?
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
What did you make of? We had Denzel Bentley in the studio 2 or 3 weeks ago, who's an infectious character, isn't he?
Yeah.
Obviously, he puts on a great. I thought it was a great performance.
Brilliant performance.
Death by 1,000 jabs, wasn't it?
Yeah.
To coin his expression, but a great performance, wasn't it?
Well, listen, I think that it was the way that he showed that he could adapt. The fight looked like it was going to be a tough night. After 4 rounds, he was boxing on the front foot, and that was giving Pauls the opportunity to get off with his own shots. And Pauls was looping that right hand over like he was bowling a cricket ball. And you don't see those shots coming. And, as the fight wears on and the fatigue sets in, you start getting hit by them shots. And I think what Denzel Bentley smartly done was decided to change tactics after that 4th round, box on the back foot, work that jab, and he found a range with the jab, and that was the key weapon that sort of set him up for the victory, because Paul started becoming more desperate as the rounds were getting on, and Bentley started getting into a rhythm, and I think that was the difference and the key.
The jab softened him up.
Oh, it was brilliant.
Were you babbling on before the show about? Were you babbling on in the show? But were you babbling on before the show about the idea that you could see Denzel Bentley fighting Chris Eubank Jr.?
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah. Why not?
Do you see that fight?
Why not?
You see Eubank.
Well, it's not going to be Hamza Shiraz because Hamza's got his own.
I think that's a good fight, honestly.
I think it's a great fight.
I think about
Eubank Jr. taking it because Eubank Jr.
Okay, I understand. From Eubank's perspective, I suppose he's probably looking at it as, listen, he's calling out Canelo and he's calling out all of these big boys. But I don't think it's going to happen against Canelo and all of these big boys is the other thing. But good domestic dust up for Denzel.
Oh, a great fight.
But for
Chris,
it's
a live one for Chris. Yeah. And how many live ones has Chris taken recently?
Simon, if the money's on the table and we get this 5v5 that we're talking about, and that could possibly be the headliner in March, you never know, Riyadh season, Denzel Bentley has now put himself in a strong position. World number one now. He's world number one now. So there is something for Eubank to take the bait on because he'll want to claim that.
Okay.
And it's a huge fight. It could be a final eliminator for a world title, someone like Janabek. You don't know what's going on. Hamza Shiraz Janabek is a fight that could be happening next. And that the winner of that, it could be like a final eliminator. So I think that is a real possibility.
I don't see Chris Eubank Jr. fighting Denzel Bentley.
Let's see.
I think there's not enough money in that fight for him.
Let's see.
He wants to get paid, and why shouldn't he? If ultimately he can, if he can sell it, he can sell it. Anyway.
I think that fight with Conor Benn would happen first before.
You think so?
I think Eubank will probably fight Ben.
I think they're trying to get Conor down the Barrios route, aren't they?
Yeah.
And that's a real opportunity for him to win a world title. Nigel, his father, wants him to fight Chris because he knows he gets paid.
Yeah.
Barrios is a winnable fight.
Barrios is a
very winnable fight.
Yeah, Conor's too aggressive for him.